What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about why Europe is way more powerful than we think. So, to be honest, a lot of Americans really believe that the United States is the greatest, most powerful place in the world, and there's no way to dispute that. And there's probably not a lot you could say to change their mind about that. So today, I really want to check out this video by Stefan Woodford that he titled Europe is way more powerful than you think. Because I believe that it's very important for Americans, for us to look at stuff like this and have these discussions and expand our viewpoints. Because a lot of Americans are really sort of trapped in our US bubble here, where we don't hear outside opinions like this. So I want to take a look at this video and I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see if this can change the way that I think about all this. So let's take a look.
So there's a narrative going around MAGA circles right now. You've probably seen it. They look at military spending. The US spends $997 billion on defense, while Europe spends $454 billion. And they conclude that Europe is helpless, that Europe needs America, that Trump can do whatever he wants, and that...
Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is true. There are a lot of Americans who have this mindset. I mean, it is factually true that the United States spends an ungodly amount of our money on our military. And on one hand, that does make, as an American, that makes you feel very safe and secure, and it's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, there's, better stuff we could and probably should be spending our money on at this point to, like, make Americans' lives better, but that's a whole other discussion. But unfortunately, a lot of Americans take this way too far, where it's not even about safety. Like, a lot of Americans take so much pride in our military power and nuclear bombs that it's like more of it's more of an aggressive thing. It's more of like a threatening thing, like, oh, we can do whatever we want. And it's like, no, that is not how the world works, and it should not work that way. That's a horrible way for the world to work. And if you take that point of view, like, there are many other countries around the world with huge militaries and, I mean, if we're mentioning it, nuclear weapons. And it's like, this point of view could just destroy civilized society if everybody acted that way. So I don't know why we act that way. It's very bad, actually.
They, us, will just have to take it. This is the logic of someone who has never thought about why America is powerful in the first place. Yes, the United States has the most powerful military on the planet. Nobody disputes that. But here's the question MAGA never asks. Where does that military come from? How does the United States afford 11 aircraft carrier strike groups and 750 military bases around the world?
How do we afford it? I mean, largely from, like, American taxpayers, for one thing, but also just, like, America has a lot of wealth and money and America prints a lot of money to the detriment of our future, but whatever, as long as we can buy more submarines now, I guess. But yeah, unless there's something about this that I'm missing.
The answer is the economy. The US military is downstream of American economic dominance. The dollar's status as the world's reserve currency lets America borrow at rates that no other country can match. The centrality of American finance means capital flows into US Treasury bonds from every corner of the globe. That's what funds the Pentagon.
Oh, I see. Yes, okay. That's certainly something that a lot of Americans don't think about. Yeah, that's a very good point. It's a little complicated, but essentially he's talking about how the United States raises money by selling bonds, essentially taking loans from the rest of the world at a very low interest rate. And it's a very powerful tool that we have, and it's basically predicated upon the fact that the U.S. dollar is valued and used in a lot of the world, and it's actually based on a lot of things that might be starting to kind of crumble away and like might not be true thanks to some of the stuff that the US and Trump have done recently. But yes, like he's absolutely right. This is an extremely powerful tool that we have, and we spend a lot of that on our military.
That is what makes the aircraft carriers possible. And here's what the tank counters don't understand. That economic dominance isn't a natural fact. It isn't geography. It's not destiny. It's a system America built after World War II and has spent 80 years maintaining. A system based on one thing above all else: trust. And here is the thing that MAGA hasn't thought about. Europe has real leverage over that trust. We hold $8 trillion in US bonds and equities. They've got a trade bazooka that can shut American companies out of 450 million consumers overnight.
Oh my God, 8 trillion? Like I'm aware that like there's European countries that are invested in the United States, and one of those investments is like bonds and treasuries, and but $8 trillion. So he's basically saying that America's power in the form of our military basically relies on, in large part, Europe, loaning to the tune of $8 trillion to us, based on buying bonds and treasuries. And the only reason you would do that is because you trust us. And that's going away. Okay. I mean, you better believe this is not something that most Americans are thinking about. I've been thinking about lately, like, how the American reputation is being ruined, or has been ruined, and the United States, like, the damage that's been done to the United States just by our reputation being ruined, and, as he puts it, trust in us being ruined. People don't want to trade with us. People don't want to invest in the U.S. People don't want to travel here. Yeah. And I think he's right. A lot of Americans don't realize how big of an impact this is having and going to continue to have. This is like a very, very big deal. Yeah.
Big get to all of that, trust me. But first, we need to truly appreciate why American power is so uniquely fragile, and why Russia can survive isolation and America can't. The world uses dollars because they trust America. They buy treasury bonds because they trust America. They route their transactions through American banks because they trust that the United States will be a reliable, predictable, rule-following anchor of the global system.
Absolutely. This makes so much sense. And what he's getting at, I think he's getting at here is, well, or I can say, a lot of Americans think that this system, like, will never change. America's position is cemented. Our financial status cannot be shaken. None of this can go, like, that is absolutely not true. I think that's what he's getting at. That all of this gravy train that America has been riding with these low interest rate loans and money printing, and a lot of countries using our banks and investing in us, that's all based on trust, and the trust is gone.
And here's the cruel irony. The very thing that makes America powerful is the thing that makes it vulnerable. Russia can survive being cut off from the West. They've been preparing for it for a decade. After Crimea, they started building alternative payment systems. They slashed their dollar reserves. They pivoted to China. When the sanctions hit in 2022, it hurt a lot. But their economy was already structured to absorb the blow. Same with China. They've got SIPs, their alternative to SWIFT. They've got 1 billion domestic customers. They're not fully integrated into the Western financial system, which means they're not fully exposed to it.
I mean, you better believe for how much for how much the US is pissing everyone off, just making everybody hate us. For how much we're doing, we're not taking any steps to like prepare for isolationism, even though the US is clearly like taking on this isolationist approach where we're like, oh, we don't need you, or or you shouldn't need us, or I don't really know what our message is at this point anymore. I don't really know what we're trying to do anymore. But yeah, we're certainly not equipped for the consequences of this.
America is the opposite. America didn't build walls against the global economy. America is the global economy. The US isn't strong despite being interconnected with the world. It's strong because of it. Every thread of global finance runs through New York. Every major transaction touches the dollar. That's not a side effect of American power. That's the source of it. Which means that when America acts like a rogue state, when it threatens to tear up treaties, invade allies, seize territories because the president had a tantrum about a medal, it doesn't just damage its reputation, it shakes the foundations of the very system that makes it powerful.
Now I get what he's saying. I understand what he's saying. This is bad. And very important for Americans to understand. Now, I am so glad I checked this video out. I think so many more Americans need to think about stuff like this, because it's easy for a lot of Americans to not even to be honest, the United States has enjoyed a long time of prosperity and power, and a lot of Americans don't know anything else, or can't even fathom that could change or go away. And based on recent events and all the stuff that we've been doing, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's already happening. And what he's specifically getting at here is a very true, a point that's very difficult for a lot of Americans to acknowledge, I think. It's that America is not powerful. It's not like we are powerful and did a bunch of stuff and it's like, oh, as a result of that, the world uses the US dollar and we get all these perks, these financial benefits. No. Because we set up that system, he said after World War II, because we set up this financial system and because it's been adopted by a lot of the world, that has been what has made the US powerful. It's not that we became powerful from something else and then, also we have all these financial benefits. No. The benefits are why we have been successful. And now that is ending.
As a Cambridge University paper put it, trust is cumulative and relational, but it can also dissipate when the hegemon is seen as unpredictable or self-serving. Russia gets sanctioned and pivots to China. Their bilateral trade hit $240 billion, with China now supplying 38% of Russian imports. America gets isolated, and what? Pivots to whom? The world is already oriented around America. There's nowhere to pivot to. The network doesn't have a backup hub. So let's talk about what's actually happening. If Trump lands troops in Greenland, and yes, I know that he almost certainly won't, he's Taco Trump after all, but if he did, first, NATO dies. Instantly. The Danish Prime Minister said it explicitly. If the United States chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops.
I mean, thank God Trump finally came out and said, oh, I'm not going to use our military on Greenland. He did finally say that, but it's Trump, so you don't know what he's going to say one day to the next. But that did add a little bit of stability to this situation. Man, But the idea that was the Greenland thing, I think really woke a lot of Americans up who were kind of. There's a lot of things that Trump has done that should have woken up a lot of Americans already, but the Greenland thing, I think for a lot of Americans who are kind of in the middle politically, that madness really. Because the idea of the US, like, physically attacking another sovereign country with our like trying to take over another country, like it's the Middle Ages, like attacking to try to take the Greenland. And the fact that that was a real thing that almost happened, and it would have destroyed NATO and the betray. We've already betrayed the trust of like most countries in the world. This would just be maybe there's some path to redemption for us, but if we did this, there's no path to redemption. It would be over. That'd be it.
Including our NATO. Republican Congressman Michael McCaul, Chairman Emeritus of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, said an invasion would turn Article 5 on its very head and, in essence, press a war with NATO itself. He said it would abolish NATO as we know it. And he's right. 75 years of collective security gone. The alliance that won the Cold War, that kept the peace in Europe, that gave America forward deployed bases across an entire continent, finished because of Greenland. And who?
I mean, if there was another country in NATO doing what the United States has been doing, like every American would be outraged and like up in arms about it. And yet we are the ones doing this. I don't know. A lot of Americans don't agree with what we have been doing or what Donald Trump has been doing and saying. But I think that's like the easiest way, like for Americans to understand this, to try to step outside and see from an outside point of view. Like if there was another country doing all of this, like if it wasn't the US, if it was another country, we would think it's irredeemable, unbelievable, outrageous. So yeah, that's what every American should think. I believe.
Who benefits? Like really, who benefits? Russia. The Kremlin is already celebrating. Putin's spokesman said Trump would go down in history if he pulled this off. One of Putin's top aides said it proves the transatlantic alliance is over. This is the gift of Vladimir Putin that he could only have dreamt of. But let's talk economics, because this is where the Europe can't hurt us crowd reveals that they haven't thought about this for 5 minutes. The EU and the US have the most integrated economic relationship in the world. Together, they represent 43% of global GDP and nearly 30% of global trade. Wow. In 2024, transatlantic trade hit 1.68 trillion euros. That is not a minor trading partner.
Wow.
That's the foundation of American prosperity. European companies directly employ 5 million Americans.
Wow.
5 million jobs, more than the entire population of Ireland.
I didn't know that. I'm going to be honest. Obviously, I know that we do trade with Europe and European countries, but I never heard the stats. I didn't know it was like this much.
European investment in the United States stands at $3.2 trillion. 56% of all foreign investment in America. More than half of every foreign dollar invested in the United States comes from Europe. And it flows the other way too. Of course it does. Apple, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, they pull somewhere between 160 billion and 300 billion in revenue from European customers every year.
Well, that's another travesty of this whole thing. It's been a mutually beneficial relationship between Europe and the US for a long time, and Trump has randomly decided that, like, Europe is taking advantage of us, or we deserve more, or... Which is unfortunate, because, you know, the United States has been in a very, very good financial position. Talking about a lot of the stuff already mentioned in this video, like the US dollar and the use of it and the use of our banks and our ability to raise money and investments. And we have enjoyed a fantastic economic status for years. We should not be trying to change a thing. It's been great. I'm talking about like the last 30, 40, 50 years. Like, it's been great, generally speaking. And the idea that, like that, it's funny because Trump is trying to, like, make America more powerful, but he may have literally ruined it for us. Like, irreparably ruined all this.
Magnificent Seven tech companies earn between 51% and 63% off their revenue from foreign markets, with Europe as a major share. The European single market is 450 million people with money to spend. That's not a market you walk away from. So what does Europe do when America, if America, invades a NATO ally? We have options. Real options. The EU has something called the Anti-Coercion Instrument. It's never been used. They call it the Trade Bazooka. It allows the EU to shut American companies out of the European single market entirely, restricting trade licenses, blocking access to public procurement, limits on foreign direct investment, sanctions on specific companies and individuals.
So Europe has literally, like, thought about this. Like how Batman has a contingency plan to take out Superman if he becomes evil. That's actually a pretty good analogy. Like, Europe is Batman, and you have this plan to take out Superman, the United States, if we become, irredeemably evil. And it's this trade. I've heard this term, trade bazooka. Like, there's a lot of economic damage that Europe could really do to the US in a very real way. And let me tell you, Americans have no idea. Like, most Americans have no idea.
France is already pushing for it. Macron called Trump's tariffs unacceptable and demanded a united and coordinated response. And if Europe doesn't go nuclear, they've got a €93 billion retaliatory tariff package sitting on the shelf from last year, specifically designed to hit Republican states. Bourbon, soybeans, aircraft parts that hurt Boeing.
Oh, wow.
Then there's the pharmaceutical angle. The US is the world's largest pharmaceutical importer. Since 2023, pharmaceuticals are the top American import from the EU.
Of course we are. Of course we are. The top importer of drugs and of course.
$170 billion worth. Europe supplies 25% of all active pharmaceutical ingredients used in American drug manufacturing. 90% of US biotech companies rely on imported components. You want to talk about national security? Try explaining to American cancer patients why their chemotherapy drugs aren't arriving because the president wanted to steal an island the size of Mexico.
I was literally just I was catching on to what he's putting down here, what he's saying. America needs to realize, like, we are not the only country that can make threats. We are not the only country that can bully people or push people around or demand things. It's just that most other countries, for example, the European countries that we're talking about here, don't do that because you want to live in a civilized, prosperous society where, like, and have you believe in mutually beneficial agreements and trade and yeah, it's annoying. It's very annoying that the U.S. I guess Trump really thinks that, like, the United States, we're the only ones who could do all this or threaten all this. No, many other countries could. They just don't because they're reasonable. That's the distinguishment here.
For its minerals. Then there's the financial dimension, the one that could really break things. European countries hold $8 trillion in US bonds and equities, almost twice as much as the rest of the world combined.
Wow.
Deutsche Bank's head of FX research has been explicit. Europe has significant leverage over America in global financial markets.
I did not know it was 8 trillion.
dollars. The dollar's status as the world's reserve currency, that exorbitant privilege that lets America borrow cheaply and run massive deficits, depends on trust.
This is such an important point right here. That I know I keep saying this, but that Americans need to understand, and they just don't. The reason we have enjoyed so much prosperity and have power is because the rest of the world agrees to trust us and use the US dollar and let us print money and go in and take out debt and loans, and because you trust us. Nobody trusts us anymore. So this is all teetering on a stack of cards, a stack of chairs teetering, with Trump balancing at the top with like a circus ball or whatever.
Trust that American institutions are stable. Trust that the rule of law means something. Trust that the United States won't seize an allied territory because the president didn't get an award. When that trust erodes, the dollar erodes. A Federal Reserve paper confirms the link. The loss of the US dollar's reserve currency status may thus presage a large decline in the global power of the US. And this economic advantage allows the US to finance a large and powerful military more easily.
Absolutely.
The dollar already dropped against the euro when Trump announced these tariffs, which of course he's went back on now already because it's Taco Trump.
Okay. I've thought about like some of these things kind of like individually, but putting it all together like this has made it make a lot more sense, and it's terrifying. I'll be honest, to think about, as an American, like, but at the same time, I'm not mad, or it makes complete sense that this would be the consequences of what we've been doing. So it's just really frustrating.
Meanwhile, gold hit a record high. The markets are watching, and they're starting to price in the possibility that the United States might be run by someone who doesn't understand that the system isn't separate from American power. Trump is threatening to torture all of that. He has already done irreparable damage. For an island, the US already has military access to all because he didn't get a medal. Because no one in power has any fucking balls. This isn't strength. This is the geopolitical equivalent of a billionaire burning his company to the ground because someone didn't clap hard enough at his speech.
Seriously. It's it's honestly like good to hear this. It's difficult to hear, but it's true. Americans should be way more outraged, actually.
There are, however, two winners if Trump keeps going the way that he's going. Do you know who they are? Russia and China.
Okay. And that's the end. Well, that wasn't fun for me as an American, but that was very valuable and very well presented, very, very good video. I enjoyed this a lot. Well, I didn't enjoy it, but I did enjoy it. If you know what I mean. Like, a lot of great points and a lot of great insights into the consequences that are going to befall the United States if we continue on this path. And even if we don't continue on this path, so much damage has been done, and there's still like 3 more years of Donald Trump in office, and that all happened in 1 year. Everything that's happened. Think about that. Yeah, but I think a lot of Americans miss some of the nuance or maybe complexity of what's going on here financially, and how much we're going to suffer. It may take time, but a lot of Americans just simply don't understand this bigger picture of the damage that's being done, that we've done to ourselves, really. So yeah, it's tough, it's frustrating, but this is very good to talk about. I think this was by, again, Stephen Woodford. If you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on this whole situation, the US, the damage we've done to the world, ourselves, and some of the consequences that are mentioned here. That'd be cool to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.